As I said, the letter of intent. This is the start of the dance. You will, if you hire a broker, you're going to develop a teaser. Once you develop for the business. Once you have someone who expresses an interest in your business, you're going to sign a mutual non-disclosure, non-circumvention agreement, which says you're going to open your kimono to them, but they can't use any of that information against you. You then negotiate the LOI. Issues of understanding what what you want. Are you going to have a consulting agreement? Who are the key employees? What is the deal with them? How are we going to deal? What's the value of inventory? You know, is the inventory have to be effectively looked at because it's obsolete? Is there obsolete inventory in there? How are you dealing with warranty? How are you dealing with warranties? How are you dealing with the base rules on the lease? What are they going to pay you for, under the lease? I will tell you that Gerber is very tough on inflationary increases for rent. They tend to want to lock in for a period of time, for 3 to 5 years, with rent increases every 3 to 5 years rather than annual increases. But that's something, again, that you might be, if you can get it in the letter of intent, you might be able to get there. The other point is, as I said, with real estate, is the right of first offer versus the right of first refusal versus right of first offer, because it's going to impinge the value to sell the real estate. Timing, price. How is it going to be paid? Cash, notes, earnouts. Someone mentioned to me before that they had a business that has a nice historical growth pattern, and they can show that it's going to continue. You can sometimes get an acquirer to say, okay, your business today is worth X, but if it grows to Y over the next 1, 2, 3 years, I'm going to pay you a portion of that growth at that point in time. It works really well also if you've had a bad year and you have to sell, because it's a way of saying, okay, I had a bad year, you want to pay me for what I just did last year, but my historical showed me I'm here. If I get back to my historical numbers, will you give me that price as an earnout? That reduces the risk for the buyer that you don't there, and the buyer should look at it and say, it's gravy. If he's increased the benefit, why do I care if he's going to be a 25% partner in part of my profits going forward if he's helped me grow it beyond what I paid for?
But that would predicate if you stayed in the business.
No, could be, if it's an earnout, you could get an earnout even if you don't stay in the business, potentially. It depends on the situation. It's usually if you are in the business, but there's a lot of situations where there's some big contracts or something that maybe you just got 2 new DRPs and you haven't been able to really monetize them yet. That would be an example where an earnout might come into play, because you haven't realized you've built this value by getting the DRP, but you really it hasn't hit your financials yet. So that's, again, a case where you could look at earnouts as an example. As I said, do not start the process before you have a non-disclosure agreement. Also, how are you going to cover your employees? Letters of intent usually have several contingencies in them. There is what's known as the due diligence contingency, which is them going through your records. And they are going to go through your records probably with a fine-tooth comb, because they're going to try to reduce the price. How much do you want to protect your employees? How much do you want to protect family members who are employees? What kind of culture do you have compared to the buyer? As a seller, during the due diligence period, you should be doing due diligence on the buyer to make sure that you're comfortable that they can do what they say they do. During due diligence, I insist that you cannot talk, that usually due diligence says if you fail due diligence, they can walk away from the deal. not give you anything, okay? I provide that they cannot talk to employees and customers until they've cleared financial due diligence. You don't want them talking to your employees and then discover there's something in the financials that's going to make them walk away from the deal. So the idea of providing in the LOI that said, we're done, you've said we're going forward on the financials. You still have the ability to walk based on, there may be an employee due diligence piece that they want to confirm, but they are not going to walk away based on pricing or your financials before you show them. You don't want them talking to your customers that way, and you sure as hell don't want them talking to your employees. Because I've seen a number of businesses where a failed acquisition costs 50% of the staff because they walked out over time because they said, well, if he's going to sell, I like working for him. I don't know what the next guy's going to do, so I'm out of here. So that's why you do not want them talking to employees until at least you firmed up the numbers from a financial perspective, and they're not going to walk away from the deal by that. Do not become adversaries, especially if the seller is going to stay on post. A problem with a lot of my brethren who are attorneys and not run a business as I have is they're taught in law school to advocate for the client and try to take the table scraps off the table. You do that in a business deal, and you're liable to have more long-run negative effects than your overall gain. You've got to make sure that when you're dealing with your attorneys that they are, one, not discussing things that are above their pay grade. If it's a business decision, the attorneys should say the clients need to get together and resolve this. You don't have lawyers talking to each other about business terms. Lawyers also have this tendency to write documents to CYA themselves and not necessarily protect the client. So the idea here is you need a readable document that covers you, but is not designed to necessarily protect the law firm, and you're paying for it. So it's really important to make the deal a win-win. This is true whether you're talking about bringing on employees to own equity, whether you're selling to a third party,